TGIF family, thank God it's Friday. It is indeed the Friday edition of WWT Live, and there's a lot going on, but simply put, watch for the shoe.
Howdy, folks. This is Willow Nightingale, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
TGIF, good people, thank God it's Friday, and welcome to WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet. I am Gerard Bonner, a.k.a. The Professor, a.k.a. Teflon G, a.k.a. GB, a.k.a. pick a good name for me, but don't throw a shoe in my way. Just don't do it. Don't do it. We got a lot to talk about today. Again, as you figured out in the world of pro wrestling, a lot can happen in 48 hours. And being live like we are, a lot of things tend to happen as we're on the air, as you noticed on the last show. Happened again today. I am not alone, though. I've got some amazing people riding with me. You know it's Friday. Friday gets crazy around here. So if it's crazy, we got a councilman part of it. Councilman Farrow, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Been out here training the old 27 3/4-inch pythons. Getting ready for the match next Saturday. Me and old Thick Neck Thaddeus is taking on for the BBC Championship in an industrial ladder match.
Not quite 2 minutes in, and already a mention of that championship. Got it. All right. Well, so be it. It should be fun, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. And of course, the master of all things honey and watch-alongs. It is Wrestling with Honey, who's got plenty of shades on. How are you?
I'm tired. I am so tired. There are things happening in the wrestling world, and it just has not stopped. I just can't wait. I can't wait to get into it. It's good to see you guys.
It's going to be a great one. It's always good to see you. And ladies and gentlemen, he is back, and it is always good to see him. And he must forgive me. I was going to have his theme music, but unfortunately I don't. But he is no less who he is. I know he relinquished his role, but just in honor that he might grab it back, we're still going to call him the mayor. He'll pick his town or province. Seth is in the building. How are you, sir?
The Duke is here?
Oh, the Duke. That's right. The Duke.
Okay,
the Duke is here. Yes.
I go by many names. We're putting the mayor down until Hickenbottom corrects his wrong. I've retired the prescription eyewear for now, but I'm still handing out cases left and right.
Well, there it is. Our theme music has appeared. It's appeared. So, I'm calling you Professor. That's funny. I'm completely flustered. It's all right. Seth, are you good, sir?
I am great. You know, it's a beautiful day. You know, it feels good when you get your task done on time.
It does.
It's been one of those type of days.
Yeah, it has been one of those types of days. And you know it's a special Friday when there has been a sighting, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just do this now. Let's just... Mommy's home. Wow. And I don't mean Rhea Ripley. I don't mean Rhea Ripley. The real TK is back. Mommy is home. Wow. TK, how are you?
Hey guys, I don't even know where I am. It's been a lot of traveling, and there's gonna be more traveling, and thank you guys for holding it down. Thank you guys for watching. We just dropped an interview for WoW, so definitely go and check that out. And then we also have an interview for TNA dropping too next week. So I'm here. I don't quite know my internet, so I apologize. My internet might be wonky, and I'm wonky as well. So we're rolling with it.
Well, it is good to have you back. You have been all over the place. You've been around the world.
I didn't know my oppressor would be.
My oppressor?
Oppressor. Oh my God.
Oppressor.
Wow.
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 Okay.
All right. How am I the oppressor when you have your own place? You do your own thing. I'm not whipping you to you you voluntarily show up to the shows, like oppressor. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I won't describe what happens behind the scenes because I will be reprimanded.
Oh my!
So
a lot of shades since he abandoned Vice City. A lot of shades. It's been a downward spiral for the Duke ever since he left Vice City.
Yeah, it's been a rough week.
Heat wave.
It's been a rough week. Admittedly, it's been a rough week for him. Well, we've got a lot to get into, and again, as we thought, one thing might be our lead story. There is yet. So let's kind of fill you in. When we came on the air Wednesday, the lead story was Stephanie Vaquer. At that point, we had found out that she had turned in her notice to immediately vacate everything connected to CMLL and New Japan. She was scheduled to be at Fantastica Mania this weekend, defending her CMLL Women's World Championship. Wow. When we came on the air Wednesday, people were speculating in terms of where she would go. While we were on the air, Shawn Michaels announces on Twitter, "Welcome to WWE, Stephanie Vaquer." So it's official. She's in WWE. And then the speculation began, when would we see her? Of course, CMLL, New Japan put out statements. Lots of people apparently on the CMLL and New Japan side are very unhappy about the way this was done. Of course, she held 2 championships at the time, the CMLL Women's World Championship and their Tag Team Championship. She had just lost the Strong Championship a couple of weeks ago at Forbidden Door. And so everybody's asking all kinds of questions. What's going on? How are we doing things? Well, we find out today that we're not going to have to wait very long to see Stephanie Vaquer in the WWE. If you are in Mexico this weekend, you will see Stephanie Vaquer as part of WWE's summer tour, their Super Show summer tour. Is going to be in Monterrey and Mexico City and will now feature the newly signed Stephanie Vaquer. The same Stephanie Vaquer that was supposed to be in San Jose on Saturday will now be in Mexico with the WWE. I had to really think about this. I believe this is the single fastest turnaround we've seen for somebody who has signed with WWE to them actually getting in the ring. She signed this week. She's in the ring this weekend. Guys, what are your thoughts on all that we have seen with Stephanie Vaquer? And should we start with the boss lady? We've not heard her melodious voice on topics. So let's hear you on topics. Oh, great TK.
When I saw this, I first thought petty WWE was like no longer like, because remember petty WWE, this is something that they would do. So I was surprised by this because it seemed like they were operating more above the board, because she truly did. Because with wrestling, I always think it seems too good to be true or too much of a story, then I assume it's a work. So because the thing is, Stephanie may be a lifer at WWE. She might not be, because you never know. If she's not, and eventually she finds herself on the outs of WWE in the next 2-3 years, these two companies are going to remember what happened. However, the person who signed this or the person who makes this happen is WWE. Like, Stephanie can't say, I want to start this weekend, and WWE doesn't okay it. They have to okay it. So there's a lot of different things happening. And the first words that come to mind is almost like bad business. And it doesn't seem on par with what WWE has been doing thus far. So I feel like there's more behind the scenes that we don't know. For somebody to break, and she might not have been on contract. It might have been like a contractor type situation, so she wasn't necessarily beholden to the company. But for somebody to break essentially their word, I feel something had to have happened, where WWE is now backing it and doubling down. Like, oh yeah, and she was supposed to be at your thing this weekend. Nah, she's gonna be over here. Like, it would have been one thing if she she didn't show up, and then this weekend passed, and then she's somewhere else. She's with WWE next weekend. But the moment she's supposed to work, she's working for another company. So there's just a lot of different things going on that I feel like the journalist in me, there's a lot of things that we're not privy to as to why these decisions were made.
Now, I will say this. It is not every day that the WWE has shows in Mexico. So I think there's interesting timing connected to this. Like, I don't know how long this was in the works, but I definitely think, given as big of a name as Stephanie is in Mexico, it's a guarantee on top of the WWE superstars, the fact that they'll get to see one of their own in a WWE setting for the first time is definitely, if ticket sales were low, which I doubt they are, but it's definitely a big add to that. Honey, what do you think of all that we've heard about Stephanie Vaquer in the last 48 hours, now being a part of the WWE roster and performing this weekend in Mexico?
This is a great way to keep yourself on the topic of the main topic of conversations every single day. This girl's obviously making moves. I would kind of have to possibly agree with Boss Lady about how this was how this was done or pulled off, but this literally is the fastest transition from one company to another that we've seen from a superstar, and then already going into the ring first weekend, like everything happened like basically within like 48 hours. It feels like it's just been absolutely crazy, but I can't wait to see what kind of value she brings to the company. And then we obviously know, her track record going even back to the days of NJPW and all of that stuff. I mean, I can't wait. I'm really excited to see what she brings, because there's been a lot of talk around her pretty much all week and for the last couple months. I mean, way to keep yourself in the conversation as one of the top. I see a lot of good things possibly in the future for her in WWE, especially with the way they'll book her.
Seth, let me ask you this question. There have been those, and I think TK may have alluded to this, that, might feel like this has been done in a petty way, this has been done in a wrong way, et cetera, et cetera. Do you feel as though this was wrong? And what I mean by this was wrong is, if you have left the company, you are signed to another company, and they put you on a show as part of their company, the show happens to be in the space where you have, geographically worked before. Is this wrong?
I see that side of things. I wouldn't say it's necessarily wrong, because this performer should be able to kind of write her own ticket. I'm pretty sure there's things behind the scenes, conversations that were had, like TK said, that we're just not privy to. And maybe she had an out clause at any time if she had a better opportunity. For example, TK mentioned journalists. Journalists can get bought out of their contracts at any time for a greater market. WWE is the bigger market. They came and got their superstar. I think, and we keep saying petty WWE, I think this is more strategic than not. And what I mean by that, hold on, let me get my glasses. Walk with me real quick. What I mean by that is a simple fact that this happened very fast. We know where Miss Vaquer was before. Now, if I want to be prophetic in a sense and say, wow, Kyrie, you wrestled a certain CEO. Now you're back in WWE. CEO wants Julia. Now you in WWE. Oh, you threw on a banger match with the enemy with Stephanie Vaquer. We're going to get you too. It sounded a whole lot to me like, baby, please come home. We got everything you need at the crib. So to me, I'm looking at this more strategically, in a sense that eventually you're going to have all of these dream matches, first evers, whatever you want to call it, here in WWE. And they are scouring the globe for the best possible talent to bring out the best of not only their NIL athletes, but matches that you want to see because you've seen them on other platforms already. And we can do it in a bigger spectacle fashion here at the Worldwide Leader.
Pharaoh, what do you think, Councilman? Same thing.
I think it's smart.
Is this wrong? Is this crazy? Yeah, is this wrong? Is this petty? Is it crazy?
I don't think it's wrong as more as it is like slightly unprofessional, but something the way you stated it when it first broke out Wednesday, she left for personal reasons. So again, just like to Real TK's point, we don't know what may have happened behind the scenes to where did this lead to her making the decision to abruptly leave? And to the point to where it's like, yo, it's something that's happened to where I don't even want to fulfill the duty that I said I'd do to show up and then go here. And then also too, though, on the side, I don't think there's no one here in this chat when they were younger and quit a job and went to a better one and just was a no call, no show, which is why no call, no show is a thing. But it's the bigger deal. And then I think something you brought up too last time, Professor, like, are there any contracts with her? Is this just off a word? Is she contracted to be at these places? No. And it's just like, hey, you got the call. And she took it.
So I'm just going to throw this in here, and some might say it's incredibly irresponsible, but I'm going to throw it in here because this is a piece of the story that we have not talked about publicly on this platform. And there's a part of me that wonders if at all this has anything to do with this story. It's another story that happened back in March of last year, where she, being Stephanie Vaquer, actually filed a criminal complaint against a guy who worked at AAA and CMLL. His name was El Cuatrero. And this was filed because they were in a relationship and he apparently choked her and threw her against a wall. Right now, Cuatrero is in jail, I believe, or something is going on with that. And there has been talk that the only reason he's been there is because Stephanie Vaquer has been in CMLL. There's also talk that with her being gone, he might be released. There's a lot more to this, to TK's point, that has not been talked about. And so if this now becomes, if they talk about personal reasons, this is very personal. If you are leaving for your own safety to be in a safer and better place, so be it. Much more to get into with that, and we'll look more into that. But that is not, y'all know we don't just do a bunch of rumors and stuff. That's actual factual stuff. But needless to say, if you're in Mexico City or Monterrey this weekend and you want to see the debut of Stephanie Vaquer in WWE, you'll be able to do that. Pretty wild way to start off today's show. Kind of cool, to say the least. So then let's move to another spot, which, by the way, the fact that women have been dominating the wrestling world this week and this month is just beautiful. So we have to get into, as we mentioned, while Stephanie Vaquer will now be in Mexico City and Monterrey, her vacated CMLL World Women's Championship will be defended at Fantastica Mania in San Jose. It will involve Yuvia, Viva Van, and Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale was involved in the finals of the Women's Owen Hart Foundational Cup. That Memorial Cup tournament was won by Mariah May, who will now go on to face Toni Storm. But it's what happened after this match. It's got the whole world talking. As Mariah May beat the brakes off of Toni Storm in a way that I don't know any of us saw coming. Literally left her battered, bruised, and bloody through the, I don't even know what you officially call him, what role he plays. Is he the butler? Threw him through a table off the stage. She was unhinged. What were your thoughts on this as the go-home scene for Dynamite this past Wednesday night? Sid, we'll start with you. Sid?
No, I heard a little professor, so I got excited.
Yeah. We'll
No, I thought this was beautiful violence. I mean, I felt like we could have got here earlier, personally. And I do see some different contrasts where people thought that Toni would be the one to turn to Mariah sooner. I wonder if this will be the end of the timeless Toni Storm character, but obviously there was some need for a switch in the main event picture. So I think it's perfect for Wembley all in all.
Councilman, what were your thoughts on this, man?
I just want to say, I think y'all all amazing because obviously Fake TK watches WWT Live because he's finally getting it. This is storytelling right here. This is how you tell a story, Fake TK. This is how you leave me now wanting to come watch AEW on Wednesday nights. This is how you do it. To Cedric's point, should have been did this. And hopefully she is above Mercedes Moné at All In when this match happens.
Very interesting. Now, honey, I know you have not necessarily fancied yourself as one who regularly watches the AEW product. So let me ask you, this whole story with Mariah May and Toni Storm and where we are right now, is this something that has piqued your interest in AEW and their women's division?
This story, especially in AEW and the women's division, was always something that I paid attention to ever since Toni Storm became the timeless one, like with the switch up and everything. This gimmick has been absolutely superb. And the buildup for this rivalry has been coming for a long time because I've kept up. If with anything with AEW is definitely the women, especially this storyline. I'm waiting for, even in my head at first, I was waiting for Toni to strike. But when it happened, I was like, oh my God, this makes sense. This is perfect. This is recreating a story here between these two. She's been her protege and taken under Toni Storm's wing for the last couple of years and done pretty much everything. And now it's where we get the student versus the teacher. And in this case, the student succeeded because the way she whooped her was absolutely unbelievable. I actually popped for it. I was like, and I was excited. I'm like, okay, I like this. This is good. Thank you, Tony Khan. Thank you very much because this was a treat. This was a very good treat. I love this.
To the real TK, any thoughts about what the other TK pulled off Wednesday night?
I mean, I feel like when we discussed it, we do discuss it when we cover our ROH TNA show, as far as in ROH in particular, where they have long-term storytelling. And I think with this, even though some of us may have been getting tired of, not necessarily tired, but questioning, where is timeless Toni Storm going? Like, how long is this going to last? I think it was perfect, like Honey was saying, as far as storyline. I believe Candace said it as well in the chat, as far as they had the lead up to it, and you didn't necessarily know who was going to turn on who. I think we can all agree that we knew that there was going to turn on somebody was going to turn on somebody. Now the thing is, how is it going to be done? And the fact that, Mariah, when she got signed and prior to even when she signed with AEW, she has such a huge following overseas. This might be really great to bring more eyeballs to AEW where this particular story is concerned. I would venture to, and I know the numbers are out there, not probably, but I feel like WWE definitely has a stronghold on the American public as far as viewership. But stories like this might actually bring more international folks into AEW to watch it. So that might be the play for AEW, to kind of maybe focus, not neglect America, but also cater to, the folks overseas, which they have been with their partnerships.
Yeah, this is it's really, really interesting. And we've got quite a few comments over here in the chat space. Special Nobody says Mariah brought that Japanese strong style violence and it was awesome. Yeah, it was definitely next level. Eddie James says, I give Jennifer Peppermint props for turning the AEW women's division around. Jury's still out. Jordan Kirby says, what would you rank this as in terms of all-time moments in AEW? That's an interesting question. how would you rank what we saw with Mariah May and Toni Storm? How do you rank that in terms of all-time moments in AEW?
Ooh, because I think the next women's moment, correct me if I'm wrong, would be Thunder Rosa and Britt.
Yes.
So as far as
that cage match.
Yeah.
Or the no holds barred match, rather.
I feel like the compare the two, they're a strong Toni Storm and Mariah are probably a strong number 2. I think Thunder Rosa and Britt, that match was still bar none. I think it was, didn't I qualify for the ESPYs or something like that? I might be totally off with that, but I feel like no matter, like, people were talking about it who weren't even wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Yet. So I feel like this is Toni and Mariah is still, it's a strong number 2, but I think Thunder Rosa and Britt, like, people are still talking about that, and that was what, 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was a few years back.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on where you think this ranks in terms of top moments all time in AEW?
I put it up there in, like, of all of AEW, like, not just the women's divisions, like all of it.
That was the question. All time.
I give it top 20. Definitely give it top 20.
Top 20. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a particular spot to put it, but I would definitely say top 20.
Okay. Okay. Said?
I agree with the councilman. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and discount so many other big, powerful moments. So I would say somewhere in the top 20. If you want to go women's division specifically, I can easily see this sliding into the top 10.
Top 10. Okay. Honey.
I would have to say just strictly keep it off to a top 10 with this moment, because this was totally unexpected, where a lot of people thought the real turn would come from Toni Storm. I guess, and it was just, after not only after the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, women's tournament final, but pulling and winning, and then pulling something off like this on someone who's been her mentor and along the way and everything, and brought her up. This is definitely a top 10 moment initially for me, because I was just initially shocked when it happened, and it surprised me. So, and I liked it because, as one who watches AEW product part-time, this was probably one of the only things that would really keep me engaged. And for that to happen the way it did and when it did, it was like, oh, okay, we're turning it up a notch now, and I like it. So
yeah, I definitely think it's a top 10 moment in all of AEW. AEW's had some really significant moments. And that's why we have to be careful when we're talking about all of AEW. Now, if we're talking about the women's division, easily top 5. And I'm saying top 5 to give myself some room for some of the other things. You've got obviously the Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa situation. I think Mercedes Moné's debut in and of itself is significant. If we even are talking about, them landing Paige or Soraya, that's a very big moment for AEW. So I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but it's definitely a strong moment for sure. And if we're talking about, unexpected moments, this is real high on the list, because I found my jaw was literally on the floor the entire time this was happening, because we just don't see this kind of violence with women. And I think, again, this has been that week for the jaw-dropping things with women in wrestling, whether it was the women's Money in the Bank match, whether it was Kalani and Sol Ruka at Heat Wave, or this. I think the women all got a memo this week that said, let's tear it out the frame and make everybody talk about us. And that's Stephanie Vaquer. Like, we've been talking about women, not just because we're women's wrestling talk, but because that has been the talk of the wrestling world. And there's a lot to be said for that. So congratulations to AEW. I know we can be hard on them at times, but they got it right Wednesday night. And this is how it ended. It also started in a way that surprised me, because I certainly thought that match would end the show. Now I know why it didn't. But for the men's tournament final, and this is a shocker, Bryan Danielson gets the win, defeating Hangman Page. personally, I was very happy to see this. I want Bryan Danielson to get his moment. Hangman Page, I just figured was absolutely, the way it was going to go, but they swerved me, and I'm okay with that. I can live with that. What are your thoughts, guys, on the fact that Bryan Danielson, in what appears to be his final year as a full-time competitor, is headed to the main event of All In? Said.
This is a good swerve because this will be a good match between Strickland and Danielson. But it was shocking that they're not just pulling the trigger on another chapter in the Swerve versus Hangman. I think it's good. It'll let this character that Hangman has now continue to develop into more of a darker heel type of run, and then we'll get there. But again, it's just such a tease that we're putting Danielson in a title match that we don't really feel like he's going to win, from my perception. But I think it'll be a great match altogether. I can't say right now, storyline wise, that the match will main event Wembley.
That's interesting. Councilman, your thoughts on Bryan Danielson going to main event All In?
What is the belt on him?
Oh, that belt is the belt that they give to the Owen Cup winners.
Oh, okay. I was like, is he a champion now? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm in kind of the same agreement with the Duke. It doesn't give me main event. It does give me opener, though. I think it either gives me opener or second to last match, especially after just what happened with now Mariah and Toni. Like, if you smart, build this up to where it could get like that. I don't mind the Hangman Swerve chapter not starting, just because, like you said, I want to see him develop that character a little more. It just makes it more enticing for it. But I know a part of me should not say this out loud, but I am going to say it. Because of how he shapes these matches out, I would not mind if Daniel Bryan is holding that AEW championship at Wembley and everybody is chanting yes, and then Swerve turns heel and beat the living crap out of him, gets a match and takes the title back and sends Daniel packing.
Honey, let me ask you this. Now that Bryan Danielson is heading to All In, we know it's probably his last time in front of this audience, if indeed he does what he says he does. What kind of chance do you think he has to win the championship and have that moment?
I think in this case, especially with Bryan Danielson, because I never want to discredit him and his career and the stellar career that he's created for himself in everywhere. But considering that this is his final go around, I would have to say that in my head, it's pretty much like a 50% chance he's either going to get it or he's not. As far as do I think he will, I don't think so. I think this is just this is going to be another banger that him and Swerve are going to put on, and then Swerve, just goes over Bryan Danielson. I mean, Bryan Danielson has had, like I said, a quite the history in wrestling, pro wrestling, even after retirement in certain places and then rebuilding his career somewhere else again. We've seen him do it all. But I think this is just more about Swerve building himself, even though Councilman, makes a fair point that they could totally rewrite the story and make Swerve, lose the belt and then try to get it back and turn heel or do it however they do it. But I think this is automatically going to go to Swerve when Bryan Danielson steps up, though he's going to have a great showing and do what he always does, which is kill it.
TK, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think what we've seen, and I recall some press conferences that I've been at last summer or last year, the end of last year, when Daniel announced his, last go round and his relationship with the fake TK. And, it seems like he has, I don't know, it's not even a pun, like almost the ear of the king, meaning that he can create the story that he wants to go out on. And he definitely doesn't seem like, and I learned this while we were in the Bahamas, he definitely doesn't seem like the type of person to just put himself over for the sake
I'm laughing because I know exactly why she's saying that. So
put himself over for the sake of it. He obviously he's a lover of wrestling. He's a lover of the storytelling of wrestling. He's all things of it. And I think he wants to be remembered for having great matches at the end and not him just having a belt. So I think whatever story he decides to do, it's definitely his imprint or his handprint is definitely going to be on it and how he wants to go out. So if it is including Swerve, which I agree with you, Councilman, where it seems like he has a liking towards Swerve and what he represents, that might be the play, especially in All In, where it's just such a big event.
Yeah.
So I will say this. I actually think Bryan Danielson's the new AEW champion at All In. And here's one of the reasons why. I feel like if Sting taught us anything, it's that Tony Khan will treat those who have been announced that they are leaving as legends. He's going to treat them well. And I think that in this particular case, and this is funny because I feel the spirit of Boza on me. This doesn't happen often. But this idea that I know Boza believes that WWE absolutely is paying attention to AEW and all things petty. Not the case, but it is proven that AEW is certainly paying attention to what WWE has done. And I think they would want to give Bryan Danielson the moment outside of WrestleMania, so that he can say that he had that moment in front of a stadium full of people winning a world title outside of WrestleMania. I think I said it on this show Wednesday that he needs that for his legacy, so that his entire legacy isn't fully connected to WWE. You know, people can talk about what he did in Ring of Honor and things like that, but not very many people saw that. Everybody knew about the Yes Movement. Everybody was a big part of that, you know. So to literally recreate that 10 years later would be the play. And knowing that he's not going to be around long means Swerve could likely get that title back. But for him to have that moment in the UK and for 80,000 people to be chanting yes while the confetti flies and he's bleeding and Brie comes out and maybe the babies come out, and like, it's a thing. It's a thing. So we'll see how it goes. But I think Wednesday proved to me that they don't always do the obvious thing. And that's actually good for pro wrestling. So we'll see how all of this plays out. But we at least know 2 matches for sure that will happen at All In. And both of them have a decent amount of story connected to them. So I'm looking forward to see what happens with this. Now, crossovers and Forbidden Doors. Things are getting really interesting this week in terms of all things TNA and NXT. So on NXT, of course, we saw the Rascals reunion. We saw Joe Hendry show up in the main event. And then this week, that was Tuesday. Last night on TNA, Izzy Dame answers the open challenge for Jordan Grace's world championship. And then there was a match between Zachary Wentz and Charlie Dempsey. And before we knew it, we had another member of the No Quarter Catch crew showing up. What's happening, guys, with this crossover? It is really quite amazing. And we're seeing just as much NXT talent head to TNA as we are seeing TNA talent head to NXT. What do you make of this? TK, I'll start with you.
Oh my gosh. And I've been saying this forever. And to also piggyback on what you said prior to before this story, Bosa, I absolutely do think that WWE is watching what AEW is doing. Not necessarily as far as tit for tat, but in order to be successful in any business, you have to know what your competitors are doing. So they definitely know what's happening. And I think they've gotten off of the petty train, because at the end of the day, at least for the foreseeable future, for the next 5 to 10 years, WWE is going to be number one. Like AEW, I think there was a moment in time where people thought AEW was going to take over WWE based off of the Vince McMahon era and the ending of it, but WWE has a foothold as far as in the number one spot right now. So there's that. As far as the Forbidden Door, I mean, we know that there's a deal of some sort with TNA and WWE, and it does seem like it's benefiting both parties, especially with those two brands, TNA and NXT. I'm curious to see what the ratings look like. Like what does, and you know, yeah, where are you, Bosa? As far as that, I see you now. As far as where the ratings going, as far as TNA and NXT, I think it's a good look. I'm just afraid that no matter what, nothing's equal in life. And so it's going to benefit one organization over the other. And monetarily, as far as the green, how's that going to come into play? So those are all things we're probably not going to get to answer to, because those are things that this is the show that I want to see, where the lawyers and everybody else is now exchanging the little tidbits of information that we'll never know. That's the show I want to see, because those decisions are what we end up seeing on television. So those are the questions I have that I don't know. We'll eventually get the answer to if it either goes wrong for TNA or right. But we're not going to get those answers right now.
And to that point, I will say that I think what one goes into a partnership for, you know, both sides might not want the same thing.
Right.
You know, so I think as long as both sides, and they don't have to announce them publicly, but as long as both sides know what expectations they're coming in with and they get those expectations, they're good. Now that's a life lesson. Use that wherever you want, TK.
It is.
All right.
But there's a story to that. So it's just like if you're in a relationship, you just want the trash.
Here we go.
You want the guy to take out the trash.
Perfectly.
You want him to take out the trash. That's all you want him to take out the trash. And he just wants dinner cooked for him. And now if you agree on that, then that's great. But one day you show up and the trash is just piling up, you're gonna be like, what's going on? This relationship is now broken. So that is a perfect analogy.
Guys, I hope you saw how I lobbed that, and she did exactly what I knew she would. Oh, beautiful.
Wait, what is this? What is that?
You're talking about Daniel Bryan. No. 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 You didn't mention the cooking part. You just stuck to the trash, and the trash is everywhere. What?
Yeah. And the trash is still piling up. I'm still holding my end of the bargain. That's all I wanted. Just saying.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Just so curious of the man that only. Never mind. Councilman, what are your thoughts on TNA and NXT's current partnership as they've been appearing on
Jeffrey?
Yeah. How do we get here? The answer is the real TK. That's how we got here. Councilman. No quarter catch crew, Izzy Dame showing up on Impact. What were your thoughts on that?
I'm enjoying every moment of it. I'm glad to see, you know, people going from left to right to what TK was trying to get to and somewhat got there. Yes, at least we are seeing a balance of it. We're not seeing NXT trample over everybody, not seeing TNA getting the short end of the stick. And it just gets me more prepared for when are we getting Worlds Collide. That's I'm just ready to hear the announcement that Worlds Collide are starting, because we had a great NXT. Duke, you watched it, right? You watched this Tuesday.
You know, wait a minute, Councilman. You know who wasn't there?
You know who wasn't there? You know what? Because I told him in solidarity last episode, and I'm glad you brought it up, because we have an announcement. We are now at 50,000 downloads for our screensaver, for our illustrious screensaver. When you got to say goodbye after some BS that happened, we are at 50,000 of these downloads, and I just want to say I appreciate everyone who has downloaded this for the Lola Vice City Fund, because Vice City is in shambles right now. They need some aid sent to them.
Smoking that Lola pack.
Yeah, they need some of that. We have been making good strides as your mayor has abandoned you.
Wow. This see what you did, TK? We can't even get the train back. Oh, because somebody didn't take out the trash. Said your thoughts.
Yes.
Well, I might as well announce that I don't watch the Michael James Hickenbottom brand any longer for personal reasons. But I would say something as simple as whatever. It's Michael Hickenbottom. I will say something as simple as having the lower thirds of the superstars and where they represent on a different show is powerful for those people who are hardcore fans of this show. So when you have the TNA logo on the WWE show, when you have the WWE logo on the TNA show, it's going to cause you to want to know more about those superstars. Those crossovers in itself are very impactful. And I would like to also announce they have nothing to do with prescribed gender roles and things that you would do in the household. I don't know how we got to trash and dishes and things like that, but that's not professional wrestling. I just want to make
it's
that.
It's not gender roles. It's my personal. I was giving you an example. I mean, I want to take out the trash, but she could take out whoever she is could take out the trash, and you could cook whatever floats your boat. I was just giving you an example. Hypothetical.
Dylan says, I just want to announce that I only watch NXT for my Lord and Savior, real TK Trinidad. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that, but thanks, Dylan.
Wow.
That is the opposite side of the spectrum from what I said earlier.
Wow.
Like that.
Wow.
Like that, real TK? You got it out like that. You got Lord and Savior status?
I mean, like that's on another level. Like
that's almost tribal chief God mode right there.
That's right. I was gonna say that's beyond boss lady shit. Now we gotta figure out a different name.
Professor knows the streets have been spicy.
Yeah, they have been spicy, son. Oh gosh.
All
right. So let's move to another story, and that is the WWE is in talks with the Intuit Dome in LA, potentially to host the Survivor Series in November, which should be very interesting. Now, this is a brand new facility that will be for the who is it for? The Clippers, the LA Clippers. And this is, again, WWE finding a way to get involved in yet another new venue. That's what they do regularly. Guys, what do you think about them potentially looking at the Intuit Dome, which seats, I hear, about 18,000 for Survivor Series, which would be obviously on the West Coast? Councilman.
I think it's cool. This is the one, TK, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the one that's by that Costco, right?
Yeah, this one's it's in Inglewood. I just looked it up. It's in Inglewood. It's down the street from SoFi. So I think it is by the Costco that you're referring. And I think I could piggyback for Will and the former mayor that look, anything that's a drive away, I'm down for. So yes, please bring Survivor Series here, because Survivor Series is also around Thanksgiving. So that requires me to not travel and go to Survivor Series and, be back in time to not take the trash out. So.
And this will allow me to see my favorite war games and be able, to not let that woman have to do the cooking part. And then we don't have to worry about no trash that night at SummerSlam because, at Survivor Series, because War Games is on and you got to eat while you watch War Games. So that way, neither one of us feel uneven and stuff. That makes sense. Makes sense to somebody makes sense.
I have pitched.
Said this is what we'll be doing.
Said's about to pound the streets.
This is
God. Good God.
You know what? This is the one time I will co-sign that, because if Survivor Series is in the Intuit Dome, your boy will be walking.
I beg your pardon.
Because if it's right next to SoFi, all I gotta do is scan my little NFL media badge, and walk myself from SoFi Stadium right over to the Intuit Dome. So streets will get pounded that night, consensually, of course.
I'm gonna be on one of these birds loose.
Boy.
I'm gonna be scooting loosely over there.
Consensually.
You can pound streets without having to deal with garbage and cooking. I just want to let you guys know that. Just want to make sure that we're clear. Like it's beneficial for both sides. You know, don't have to get into the household chores.
We like cake over here.
This is completely fallen off the rails.
To be fair, we gave y'all a solid Monday and Wednesday. Okay.
it was falling off on Wednesday. So, but this
completely unhinged.
Completely unhinged.
But to answer your question, I am excited that it is coming. I look forward to seeing the stadium complete, and I think the best way to see it for the first time for someone like myself who does like architecture and graphic design, like how the Duke was talking about with the lower thirds on NXT. I look forward to my first time in that arena is a WWE PLE. So I think that's the best way to cap this thing off by having a WWE grand opening for it.
I think it'll be pretty amazing for sure. You know what I thought about? Our sponsor.
Have you heard the news? It's pretty big. I heard from my friend who heard from her friend all the way from the Caribbean. Well, when I heard from my friend, I became super excited. And I think you guys will like it too. WWT now has an official partner, and it's All Caribbean Wrestling, the premier promotion across the Caribbean. Go to allcaribbeanwrestling.com to check out all the latest pay-per-views, or go on the YouTube page at All Caribbean Wrestling. Also, go and check out their socials on Instagram at All Caribbean Wrestling and on X at All Caribbean WR1. Now, you make sure you go and check them out and tell them WWT sent you. You hear me?
Shout out, of course, to our friends over at All Caribbean Wrestling, a great sponsor here at Women's Wrestling Talk. So speaking of Women's Wrestling Talk, there's a brand new podcast out there hosted by the WWE champion. That, of course, is Cody Rhodes. His first guest on there is the WWE Women's Champion, Bayley, as they sat down for an episode of What Do You Want to Talk About? It was housed on his tour bus. And some interesting things coming out of the conversation is Bayley talking about her desire to see an Evolution 2. And in there, she feels as though, you know, not only could you have women from Raw and SmackDown and NXT, but TNA could be involved as well, which could absolutely be a thing. She also went on to say that she loves what's happening right now with Liv Morgan and Dom, and feels as though there needs to be more storylines for women in WWE, not connected to a championship and not necessarily connected to in-ring activity. What are your thoughts on the comments from Bayley? And Honey, we'll start with you, as I know you recently asked on your Honey Pot predictions, where's Bayley and where's her championship?
Yeah, I was just been a little curious, a little concerned, you know, just want to make sure that she's having a great run with this title, being that this is what we highly anticipated for in the beginning of the year. But all things considered, this was a really cool episode. And I love the concept, of course, of the what do you want to talk about? Obviously, Cody, genius. But yeah, why not an Evolution 2? I think we had actually asked that, there was somebody that mentioned that sometime, and it was a topic here on the show a couple months back, if I remember correctly. But I would love to see another women's pay-per-view Evolution. Like the first one was great. Why not keep it going? I mean, there were so many times where they said that they were going to, and then it kind of, you know, disappeared into the wind, unfortunately. But yeah, Bayley definitely drives a good point, and maybe she's also looking for her next contender that way as well.
Councilman, thoughts on Bayley's comments in terms of Evolution 2 and additional storylines for the women's division?
I think the best horsewoman said it best. Like, yeah, we need a evolution too, to see with everybody from SmackDown, Raw, NXT, and TNA all together. Like you have more than enough now to build that storyline, and then with the legends you have from the WWE roster and the legends you have from the TNA roster also kind of available, like your Gail Kims, your Mickey James and stuff can also come back. I'd like it explains itself. It's just kind of like, when do y'all want to pull the trigger on it and give this to us? And I do agree with her. I think we do need to see some storylines that don't involve the title, but I would like to see them introduce a singles title like they did in NXT. I think we've seen that work well with Kaylani. I think it's now time for the main roster to be able to get that, so we can start kind of seeing that division of the world championship to what the singles title would be. So, I just want to see more women wrestlers. If I just to get all of that into one thing, I want to see some more, and I couldn't agree more with Bayley.
Sed, let me ask you this. Let's say that an Evolution 2 is done, I don't know, in the next 6 months to a year. Who main events?
Well, we know it ain't Bayley unless the CEO come back. we know that for sure. She ain't got a chance of headlining until the CEO come back. But
wow.
If there is a chance for somebody to headline Evolution within the next year, I have to look at some type of way. It wouldn't be in 2024. We're talking about top of 2025. I could see a situation where you have Jordan Grace and Bianca Belair. Would be an interesting contrast in styles if you want to promote TNA to a higher plateau. Or if you just want to do if you did do Evolution and you wanted to take a spin off Worlds Collide, you have all three main roster champions at that time. Meaning if Bayley's still the champion, you have your Baileys, Livs, Jordan, and Roxanne in a four-way. I think that would be unique and something that we haven't seen before. To Bayley's point, to give her credit, it's something we've been clamoring for a long time, and NXT does it very well. Those second-tier storylines, like we've seen with Mia Yim and Jada Parker, JC Jane and Thea Hale. The main roster needs so many more of those to get us intrigued. And there's a good opportunity to do those type of things. Like whenever the Wyatt Six gets tired of chasing Chad Gable, whatever they do with Nikki Cross can be one of those things that they highlight that people will probably gravitate to. More of those storylines are needed because unless you have something to sink your teeth into in the women's division, like for example, a lot of Bayley's title defenses haven't really been highlighted. So those secondary stories are needed just to get to that point.
TK, who do you think should main event Evolution 2 if it happens in the next 6 months to a year?
I mean, well, how long is Charlotte out for?
I'm probably she should be back. I'm imagining the next 3 to 4 months because it's supposed to be 9 months.
Yeah, I feel like some people are tired of her, but I feel like Charlotte Flair is always a good bet, especially for something like this. I feel like you can't. If I were in the room and it's and we've seen the videos, she's coming along splendidly as far as recovery. I wouldn't. This potential PLE wouldn't happen. Not necessarily hinging on Charlotte, but the timing would be great, and I would want to include her in that picture some way somehow. I think somebody spoke about the dream matches and the Forbidden Doors, like Charlotte against anybody in TNA, which up to maybe 2 years ago, we thought we'd never see, because we already know Charlotte's a lifer as far as WWE. So like Charlotte and anybody outside of the folks who've been in WWE for a long period of time, a match with Jordan Grace, what does that look like? So I think there's just a lot of different potential in general as far as who would be the head. Like, match cards is always subject to change. Like there's just so many possibilities. We have a whole bunch of women in NXT coming up. Trish Stratus is still in the picture in different ways. So like, me, I'm always a fan of my Canadians, despite people keep asking me about this Kendrick Drake thing. That's something different. Trish is always gonna be Trish. and she can still, to me, make a great match. So like that's a potential too. And I know that's old school, but we have so many different possibilities, especially with the Forbidden Door. And then I mean, this is just shooting it out there, because I think Mercedes is signed for 3 years. Is it 3-year contract with AEW?
3 years. That's correct.
So 3 years, but I don't know, the way WWE is moving with their partnership with TKO and Endeavor. I mean, yeah, that's 3 years, but all contracts can be broken. So there's that.
That's interesting. There was something I was going to
I feel
say.
like that was insider information.
Right? Okay, I'm glad I wasn't over.
I feel like that was insider information.
Like, what you know, we don't know.
Really saying anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying business is not for dealing in business, and I'm on a very small level, not even near WWE's status, but being in rooms with people who have big companies and operating my small little company and seeing how businesses work, rules of engagement that the folks like us follow, they don't follow. The things can happen, things that we think that could never happen could happen.
Cedric, she knows something. She knows.
You got to read between the lines when TK.
Yeah, that did not help.
First thing she said, if I was a person in the room, and in that same statement said contracts can be broken. You just got to read between the lines a little bit and see that TK knows something we don't know.
Now, here's what is interesting. Just consider, we talk about Charlotte Flair and all of those things. It's amazing to consider that in the only Evolution PLE, Charlotte Flair was not in the main event. Matter of fact, it was Charlotte versus Becky, if you can imagine that, and that did main event the show.
And then also, if you read Becky's book, and I know we talked about it plenty of times, and I might run it back and actually do it. If you read Becky's book about that match, that wasn't even how that Evolution, according to Becky, they forgot certain things, how the match was supposed to be. Yeah, they messed up how the match was supposed to be. They didn't have the right equipment. They did a lot of stuff on the fly. Like, they really didn't have it for that particular match. They really didn't have the time to actually put a really banger of a match together.
But it was a banger.
Yeah. And so now imagine if WWE put all their effort in, like they put into the Saudi shows, like they put into any regular PLE, what Evolution would look like. Because if we're going according to what Becky said, we got a 75% WWE backing. Like, we're going to give you all this, but we not really.
But if you think about it, that's actually true. I mean, they went from the Nassau Coliseum, which only seated about 10,000 people. And if you're going in the New York area, usually when they're in New York, they're going to hit Madison Square Garden. They're hitting Uniondale for a smaller show. So they set up for a smaller situation. I would be intrigued to see what Evolution would look like in this iteration of WWE with Triple H on board. I think it would be incredible. And again, it seems crazy when you look back and think that Charlotte and Becky didn't main event, but Ronda and Nikki Bella did. So do with that what you will. So let's talk about this, because there's been a lot of talk about Julia potentially coming. We know Stephanie Vaquer is signed, and there's another name that's floating around. And I know I'm imagining Dylan will have a lot to say about this name. Her name is Delta. She is a big star coming from Australia, who apparently last weekend finished up her time in Australia, and it is believed that she is WWE bound. This is being said to be a big signing, and what they are saying is that she is better than Rhea Ripley was when Rhea Ripley showed up in WWE. They're saying a lot about Delta. And so I guess my question to you is, What do we make of the NXT women's division if you are infusing Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, and now Delta into the mix? Said, I saw you shaking your head.
I don't want to answer this question. We talked about this off the air. Nah, next person. Nah, I can't. Too soon.
Okay.
Wait, what I missed? What I missed?
Wait a minute.
Honey, would you like to talk about what could potentially be on the horizon for WWE's women's division involving Delta, Julia, and Stephanie Vaquer?
At this point, anything, at this point, anything, it's only been, we're in July. It's only been half the year. Mm-hmm. And so many things that we didn't think would happen have happened. And it all, it all started with ushering this new, ever since we ushered in this new regime, ever since even the new year started. I would even dare say towards the end of last year. But I don't know. I personally am not quite fully familiar with Delta, but if people are highly anticipating these women's names, like I see that they are all over the internet and online and on my feed and everything, things are about to get really, really serious. And why not have a women's evolution when you include all of these types of names?
Councilman, what's going on here with this women's division in WWE? Are they stacking the deck?
I think they are, and I think they're just again, I don't know too much about Delta either, but I'm starting to like to see the blend between, let me not call it independent because I got in trouble last time I said independent by a fan. Non-performance based stars like they've brought from the Performance Center, and that mixture of like seasoned veterans out there in indie promotions and other big promotions coming. I'm starting to see like there's a balance there for women, and I think it's just, hey, you're finally investing in it. I hope and even back to Bailey's point, like continue to develop more stories for them and keep them going. Again, I'm just impressed by the women wrestlers right now. So I think you just adding more people that people want to see, like Delta. I think it just works. Again, I don't know her, so I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but we talking about her, so I guess obviously it must be a good thing that she coming. But said it's scaring.
I was about to say, okay, Mariah Carey with the I don't know her.
Because he was just like, no, Nick, like, what happened? Wait.
So I fully sense where Seth is. So I'm going to ask a question that hopefully either he can answer or it might really cause him to shut up. I don't want him to shut up. So, but here's the question. The question is, are you in any way concerned about what the additions of these worldwide stars could do to those who are currently in the Performance Center or in the NIL program? Will it push them back, or will it cause them actually to be better because of the level of competition they'll have?
So our train has already been derailed, which wasn't fair. It just flat out was not fair. And literally days later, we want to sign a gauntlet of world-renowned athletes. And we have an entire PC already producing these said athletes. I think it does push people to the back of the line because the shiny new toy is always fun. But I want to be clear here that we got the shiny new toy already in NXT, moving merchandise hand over fist. And I don't need to go into details of what that is. You guys got the aqua shirts. You've seen them. But Stephanie Vaquer, more experience. Delta, more experience than a lot of these people who are from the NIL program. So they're going to know how to do certain things in the ring better off top. They're just learning the American way as well as getting adjusted to society and learning how WWE does things, and also just how to be on a live camera. So I just think hopefully it levels some things out, because there are some people who are still getting their feet wet, which is why this TNA partnership is fruitful, because they can still get some work on that side of the fence too. But for those who are at the top of the card, that we talked about for a long time, that is just Roxanne and everybody else till Lola got there and Sean did what he did. But now you have more people that can kind of step right into that stratosphere, and you wouldn't question it.
Yeah. Now we were seeing some footage of Delta and it disappeared, but that was footage of Delta and what she's doing. We'll probably get that back at some point, but Delta is certainly a worldwide star, and we'll be talking about her, I'm sure, as the days and weeks progress. Now, again, women have been dominating the news story and the news cycle, such as the case for CJ Perry, who has officially announced her departure from AEW. I think that's very, very interesting. What are you doing?
Just wanted to say hi.
Son, I'm literally on a live broadcast. You just can't come in and just start talking.
I know.
So then you have to go out and let
forward. Dude, that's the way. That's how it goes.
I give you 35 seconds.
Okay.
35 seconds. I'm putting the timer on. Okay? Cannot believe you are doing this, but we're going to do this. Wait, hold on. 35 seconds. The timer is going to start.
Everybody go on mute. Little Professor has
the timer is going to start. I'm going to give you 35
Little
seconds.
Professor has the floor.
Okay, I'm going to give you the headphones. You have to say hi to everybody first. Okay? Don't want to be rude. Say hi. Okay. You get to say hi. I'm starting the time. Oh.
Hi.
There you go.
Hey there, little Professor. What's up? It's a party now. Now it's really Friday.
Yeah, it's really funny.
What do you want to say?
Let me guess. So today, I have my glasses on so I can see, so I can rock, because, it's like the craziest thing in the whole world. And yeah. Oh, so here's the next part. What?
I'll give you 30 more seconds, okay?
Finally.
30 more seconds. Go.
And then we had to do stuff, because when we had to, this particularly happened, so all of that 19 things to the big party. The big party started at 85 p.m. And when 85 p.m. overpassed, pooped it out, What? And then after that, there was like a big thing.
That's your time, okay? So Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next time.
See you next time.
All right. Go on out, son. All right. And there's our live.
From that last few seconds is that the little professor was on my side. He said Roxanne Perez pooped out like 5 different pop rocks, and it made no sense whatsoever.
Nah.
No,
I think he was telling us about his new podcast. He was telling us about his new podcast at 85
somebody
p.m.
had my back here. I just knew it.
I know one thing that made more sense than that somebody not taking out the trash and somebody.
Wow.
Okay, wait, more sense.
Wow.
I love
This is great. This is great.
Wow.
So,
I love
yes.
this crew.
CJ Perry has announced her exit from AEW. And interestingly enough, she announced it.
Oh my God.
Sheesh. She announced I didn't do that. I did not do that. She announced that in an interview with USA Today. And so that is very interesting. What the future holds for her, we don't know. But we certainly do wish her well. I think it's interesting. Obviously, as many people lobbied for her to show up in AEW. The last time we really saw her on AEW television was at World's End at the end of 2023. where she turned on Andrade, and maybe that sent Andrade back to WWE as he ended up in the Royal Rumble a couple of weeks later, and she's no longer there. So, all right, SmackDown tonight. Of course, we've got the SmackDown watch along coming in at the top of the next hour. Some great matches coming, including Michin against the Queen, Nia Jax. That ought to be very interesting. Tiffy time will be in the building. What will happen with this Money in the Bank contract? We'll find that out tonight. In a tag team match, which I think is very interesting. First time I believe we've seen this team of Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin taking on members of Legado del Fantasma. And also we'll have, I meant to say that the Bloodline would be here, but obviously I missed that slide. So probably because Honey did not want to see that version of the Bloodline, and I'm not mad at that at all.
It's because it's not our bloodline. It's not the real bloodline anyway, so that's why.
Timu Bloodline will have their time. When
Timu Bloodline, wow.
Timu Bloodline. Not my bloodline, not my tribal chief.
Not my tribal
chief. Wow, not my tribal chief. Yeah, that's
Damn!
That's rough. That's rough. So that's a look at our show for tonight. Councilman, how can the people find you?
I'll just keep it very simple. Follow me at Will Pharaoh, PHARAOH. Check out my live Saturday, 9 a.m. PST, where we talk Marvel talk. Captain America trailer just dropped. So many other things. As busy as it was in wrestling, it was just as busy over in the Marvel comic book world. So join me this Saturday live because we're gonna be talking about that. So yeah, and that's all I got. We were crazy today, so I'm gonna be very calm on the outro.
Said.
I don't want to be found. I don't want you to know my whereabouts, but I will say that I'm working on some pretty cool stuff. Hashtag blame Jacob DeLawrence as usual, but he is finally getting out of his crevice, and we should be creating some new podcast content very soon. That's all I can say for this time.
All right. We will see Honey at the top of the next hour. Honey, how can people find you?
I'll keep it simple as well. Follow me here Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, especially Friday nights. TikTok Wrestling with Honey, Instagram Wrestling with Honey, Facebook Wrestling W Honey, and like and subscribe to YouTube Wrestling with Honey podcast.
Of course, you guys can find me at Bonnerfied across all of the social spaces. Commentary work with Southern Honor and IWE are on IWTV. I've got a show with IWE tomorrow night, so that should be fun. And then we've got, of course, my work with Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling and the Nightmare Factory on the Nightmare Factory YouTube channel. My work with Ashe Wrestling is at AsheWrestling.com. And, of course, you can check out my work with All Caribbean Wrestling on their YouTube page and follow them across the socials. Said doesn't want to be found or followed, but if you do see Said, wow.
I wanted him to finish the sentence. He wouldn't.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That's our hashtag holy table.
Oh, golly. Yeah. And so, of course, since TK is home, there's no it's her house. So she closes us out. We bow out gracefully.
Wow, it's been absolutely amazing. We are looking to do some more watch alongs, so coming down the pipe. With that, like I said, we have a WoW interview that just dropped with Candy Crush and Coach Campanelli. Really interesting stuff with them as they're the trios champion. We have a TNA interview dropping as well as two more interviews, and then our partnership with All Caribbean Wrestling. We have a couple interviews dropping there, as well as I believe a possible announcement with them next week. We're just finalizing. Yeah,
I was going to say in Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for the details to get finalized before we make that announcement. But yeah, a lot of great things are happening, and we're rebuilding our website thanks to Will. So be on the lookout for that. So a lot of good things are happening. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. I mean, just pop out sometimes. So there's nothing much just to see as of yet, but definitely check all that out. And thank you guys so much for watching. Look, Jeffrey, just so you know, I can't remember the last time I took out the trash. I didn't even take the trash out when I was back home. I just don't. I don't take trash out. It's just not.
Who takes out the trash at your home?
The man.
My roommate takes out. That was our arrangement. My roommate takes out the trash at my apartment, and
he cooks.
Roommate.
No, he doesn't. He cooks for himself. I buy food. Wow. And then when I was home, I'm like the daughter returned home from war. I don't have to do anything but just be there.
So what is your part of the arrangement? I was gonna say, what's your part of the arrangement? I mean, we heard
with my roommate.
With whomever. I mean, you said one part takes the trash.
What Professor's saying is, when do you put your palms down? I see a lot of palms up.
Oh, see what happens is. What happens is, because I am well connected in certain walks of life, I create relationships with people. So for instance, if you need something done, then I will contact that person, and then you will get it done. So I am kind of the plug. So when you need stuff done, you hit me up. So that's the trade-off with my room. And you need stuff done, I put him in contact with those people, and here we are.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how I just found out who is funding the D'Angelo family on NXT. It's been TK all along. All along.
I am a.
She's the one that's been ordering the hits. People have been murdered. Go.
No. It's not even the D'Angelo family. She could be the tribal chief behind this bloodline, this new solo Sokoa
Timu bloodline. This is you. You did that to Paul.
No, it's not Timu. It's TK bloodline.
Wow. But sometimes when certain things arises, somebody has to take over what's happening, and that's what Solo did.
Listen, you know what? We have no business asking mommy what she be doing. This her house anyway.
TK said, all you gotta do is take the trash out, and I know a guy that'll give you a favor.
I know several guys.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a wonderful Friday. We will see you next time on WWT Live.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at wwtalkpod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at wwtalkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.